1200 Films Podcast. Chuck Loaf here. All horror all the time. Back with another regular episode. 8 films, as usual, where I rush through them and give rapid fire reviews. It's called the 1200 Films Podcast for a reason, and it started originally as a record attempt for Guinness, but they changed the rules on me, but I decided to keep the name and just do horror movies. This first film I'm reviewing will actually be my 1200th film review. That's insanity. How many YouTubers do you know can say they've done 1200 film reviews? Not many. But the rating scale, as always, on the bottom, dumpster fire garbage, then can't quite recommend, okay if desperate. Put it on the watch list, put it on top of the watch list. Get ready, get set, go. Boy, we got some dingers. I was trying to do an 80s show, and I got 4 of them in, and then they were so bad that I gave up and just stopped watching 80s. 1981, Fear No Evil, 4.6 on IMDb. Okay. So, the Antichrist is born. He's a teenager in the 80s. And growling and grunting is coming from his room. I will recreate the noise. And his parents are like, there's a problem. There's a problem with our son. Like, yes, he's the devil reincarnate. That's the problem. And this movie is pure 80s cheese. It's kind of to that so bad it's good, but it's not really that good. But it is watchable. Okay if desperate. If you're into 80s cheese like me, then you will find joy in this film. If not, you will say, WTF, turn this garbage off. My opinion. It's all my opinion. 1980, Bloodbath, 4.5. I made a critical error and watched this on YouTube, and it wasn't like legally uploaded, it was just dubbed. So the quality was really bad. That's why I highly recommend don't ever watch films that are illegally uploaded to YouTube, because you're getting probably a dub of a dub of a dub. It's not going to be good. And this was not good. Even in 4K Blu-ray high def plasma enriched, I don't think this movie would have been any good. It did have Paul E. from the Rocky movies, but beyond that, it wasn't anything to shout about. It's Jaws, but on the sand. You see the creature for about 12 seconds, and that's probably where the movie's budget was spent, and it's still kind of like, oh, there it is. Dumpster fire garbage. 1983, Frightmare, 4.6. The concept was good. It's about this actor who played Dracula in films, and all the members of his family are money mooching jerks, and all they want is a piece of the pie. So when he dies, he sets up all these traps to kill them. And you're thinking, boy, that sounds a lot like Saw Part 4. Yeah. Pretty much. Except, that a little different. Jigsaw wasn't a vampire. Still, I can't quite recommend that one. That's the point where I hit enough of 80s. So I browsed Tubi to see what I could find, and I found this one from 2021 called Saloum, Saloum. Got a 6.2. Um, I forget the country, but these South African freedom fighters, they're in the midst of a war and they take off and they're going somewhere over the desert, and they were shot in the gas tank, so they have to land in the middle of nowhere and have to stay at this little inn. That's this very sparsely populated area, so until they can recover and take off again. And then they realize they have a connection with this place, and then it kind of spirals from there. And there's a lot of naughty things that happen. A lot of naughty things. But still, overall, not a bad little kind of ghost story. Better than I've seen in a while, I guess. Okay if desperate. It's not quite... I can't quite say you have to see this. It's fine. It's good. Then after I watched that film, it showed me a list of movies that I might like. I said, oh, let me look through these. And among those selections was the film from 2006 called The Book of Revelation. This has a 5.3 on IMDb. Let's talk about this goddamn movie. Holy Christ. It said something about women kidnapping a dancer and he goes missing. I was like, missing people. And I'm a sucker for missing persons. The documentary I'm going to cover later in this episode is called Missing 411, about missing people. So I'm watching this film. So these three women kidnap this, I guess, semi-famous stage dancer, actor. And they're not there to torture him. They're there to fornicate with him. So they chain him to a wooden floor. This is all in the trailer, so I'm not really giving away anything. And they proceed to have their way. Lots of nudity on both sides, so be prepared for that. Why this movie is called The Book of Revelation, I'll never know. There is no biblical references that I could see even coming. I don't understand. No clue. Weird title. Nonsensical title. But and then the second half of this film is amazing. It's like setting up to be super good, and then it kind of ends. It's like, it gave you that horror movie ending, but you were kind of hoping for something because it built it up so much. But it was something to behold. Yes. How do I rate this? I don't know. For me, it's a put it on the watch list, but I think for most people it'll be okay if desperate. I don't think anyone's gonna be superly overly, unless you're like me into missing peoples. So I always wonder what happens to these people when they go missing. Well, they could be used as sex slaves. That's a thing. That is a thing out of control. So yeah, next film, 2023, Boston Stranglers, got a 6.5, starring the amazing Keira Knightley. This was a Hulu original. Good for Hulu. This was impressive. Good old Chris Cooper. I don't see enough of Chris Cooper anymore. He was so brilliant in adaptation with Nicolas Cage. Gosh, that must have been 10, 12 years ago now. But Chris Cooper was he was in a small part, but he was awesome. And honestly, I did not know a whole lot about the Boston Strangler. So I was kind of going into this kind of, like learning what happened. The Son of Sam, I could tell you details. Gacy, I can tell you about details. Boston Strangler, not so much. Boy, what a complicated, bizarre case that was. Jesus. A lot of leading you in one direction, then, oh, nope, turn going in this direction. Oh, no, go back this direction. Nope, nope. I kind of wish this was a miniseries. I kind of wish they had gone even slower and taken their time and explained things a bit more. Because I wanted more. I wanted more details. But I guess that's a sign of a good film, when you want more. Yeah. But yeah, it was excellent. Put it on the watch list. Check this out. Boston Strangler. And now time for our feature review. Missing 411, the UFO Connection.
In many stories, children are right there, and then the next second they're gone. After reading thousands of reports, I started to document what is called profile points. The number one profile point is lack of scent trail.
It was unusual that they had that many tracking dogs. I've never found a track.
The more you hear, the stranger the story gets. Why send a SWAT team on a missing person case? When I saw that, that's when I, went down on my knees. They are connected to extra-dimensional beings. Those are real. How do you explain to a grieving family that something paranormal may be tied to the disappearance?
Missing 411, the UFO Connection. This has a 7.0 on IMDb. This is the third documentary about the missing 411. The first one they did kind of independently and obviously did not know what they were doing, and it kind of suffered. It's barely watchable. And then the main guy brought in his son, who went to school for this stuff and making films, and it was 20 times better. The Missing 411, The Hunted. I highly recommend that film. And now they've done a third one, Missing 411, The UFO Connection. And all throughout the film, I was wondering if the main guy is David Paulides. He started all this book series, and all based on actual cases. And he brought in the son for the previous one. And I was wondering if he brought in the son for this one. And then at the very end of the credits, they tell you that the son is deceased, that he committed suicide. I don't think he was even 30 years old, and that was kind of sad. But it's very sad. But back to the film. The David Paulides, he's been kind of tiptoeing around what he thinks is doing this and how this is all happening. It's all people that disappear in bizarre, unusual ways that can't be explained easily. That's obviously not a blatant murder or an animal attack or falling in a hole, or it's all stuff where dogs won't search and weird things happen, and sometimes their body will show up 15 miles away in pristine condition, and you're like, how the hell? It's things like that. And now he's kind of venturing into the possibility that the missing people are UFO related. And he has a lot of interviews and then a lot of, anecdotal evidence that it is. So I think maybe he's leaning in this direction after all these years. I do have one of his books, and it's What Nightmares Are Made Of. I do not recommend reading that before going to bed. But yes, this film is fascinating. Highly recommend. Do I have an idea of what's doing this? I think the UFO idea is probably the best one so far. I really don't think it's Bigfoot. I really don't think it's a killer in the woods. Because you would catch a killer in the woods. The dogs would find him. There'd be evidence. There'd be something. There's nothing. These people are just poof, gone, poof. Then if they are found, they don't know what the hell happened. They're like amnesia. bizarre. But yes, highly recommend put it on top of the watch list. Check out that film. And don't watch it on a cheap YouTube dubbed version. But speaking of YouTube, I do have a YouTube Premium membership. It's one of the few services I use every month and pay for every month because it's something I have to have because I use YouTube a lot and I hate ads. If I want to watch a video from Creature Feature Reviews, I don't want to watch a 20-second Grammarly ad. I want what I clicked. Hi, kitty. What are you doing? So I'm going to be watching free YouTube movies, not the ones that were illegally uploaded, ones they offer on their streaming services, or as they put it, free with ads. But unless you're a premium membership like me, then you don't have to watch the stupid ads. Thank Jesus. I've already watched one, and it was pretty painless process. So I'll be watching several more and doing a show about it. That's what I do. And I see somebody put out a list of best horror films of 2023 so far, so I'll be looking at that list. I see one of the movies they put on there is Skinamarink. No. That movie is unwatchable, in my opinion. Some people love it. But when it's so dark all the time, you're constantly on edge because you don't know what's in there. That's okay for small periods of time. But for an entire film, when you're just kind of in the dark, barely seeing what's going on, it's overload. So that's what's going on. That'll be what's coming up. So that'll be fun. So until next time, peoples, bye-bye.